Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to the Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Del Sol Valley, which is the world that we got from the expansion pack The Sims 4 Get Famous, and I'm going to be building a Beverly Hills Inspired celebrity home. So this house ends up having 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, and it's built on a 50 by 40 lot I believe, which I know you're probably thinking, for starters, how are you building on such a big of a lot and you only end up having 3 bedrooms? Trust me when I say there is so much in this house, and I only needed 3 bedrooms. Technically, for the household that's going to live here in my save file, I only needed 2, but this week I finally sat down and I finally took the plunge and I built something in the world of Del Sol Valley, more in particular the area that is the Pinnacles. Now, if you watch me regularly, you might have noticed by this point, I don't really seem to build here that often, and it's not because I forget about this world, it's more so because this area, the Pinnacles, kind of scares me a little bit when it comes around to building, which I know probably sounds a little bit funny, but basically, with the Get Famous expansion pack, we got the introduction of your Sims to be celebrities, and they can be really rich and famous and stuff, and for my save file, I want to make the celebrity houses like the best of the best. I want them to be filled with absolutely everything. I want them to be super fancy. I want them to be the kind of houses that your Sims would find on like their version of Pinterest and like pinned to their like dream house board kind of thing. Like I want them to be like the fanciest houses in my save. But then with doing that, I've also just been a little bit nervous to actually sit down and build anything here because I don't know, I've tried so many different things before in the past, and I end up not loving it, and if I don't love it, I don't want to post it, and so then I end up bulldozing it. I have attempted to build something here so many different times, but this week I finally sat down, I finally took the plunge, I started building, and I basically didn't bulldoze this one, and I'm just really happy with the way it turned out, and I'm really proud of it as well. I'm also really excited to finally be sharing a build in this area of the world, because the area that I'm building in, the Pinnacles, it is just so beautiful. It's on the top of these cliffs, it looks out onto the view of Del Sol Valley. The views that this house have are just absolute chef's kiss, and just overall I'm really happy and really proud of this house, and so yeah, I really hope you guys like it as well. But anyway, getting on and talking a little bit more about the build itself. So, like I've already mentioned, I'm building this house for my save file, and I'm building it for a pre-existing family, which is the Bailey Moon family. Now, if you've never run into the Bailey Moon family, it's basically a household that consists of 3 Sims. There is a mum, a dad, and then a little boy. The mum is an author, the dad is a musician, and then the kid is just a kid. He's really nice. I don't know if anyone else sees him in their gameplay, but I find that whenever I have kids in my households, they always end up being friends with the kid. His name is Orange. He's a sweet kid, but yeah, the household originally consists of 3 members, and for my save file, I think I'm going to keep it to be that. I think I'm just going to give them a dog or something. I was personally picturing some sort of like Pomeranian or like maybe a Chihuahua or something, because I did add some food bowls into the kitchen. But yeah, that's why there only ends up being 3 bedrooms in this house. The parents have their own bedroom, the kid has his own bedroom, and then I thought it'd be nice if we could have like a spare guest bedroom, or if you wanted to play with butlers, there is also a room for them as well. But in terms of what's on the inside of this house, there is just, honestly, there is so much. My favourite thing and my favourite room is there ends up being a music recording studio, because the dad in this household, he's a musician, and so I wanted to give him basically all the equipment, all the stuff, so he can make his own music tracks and then sell them and then kind of get royalties from that. And so downstairs there ends up being a music recording studio and then a little separate music room. They are kind of together, but then I did separate them with like the use of windows and doors, because I'm just going to say, I've never been in a music recording studio, as I'm probably sure you wouldn't imagine that I would have anyway, but I've never been in a music recording studio. But I'm just going off whenever I see like documentaries, or if ever I see films or whatever, and someone's creating some sort of music track. You know when artists have like their Netflix documentaries coming out about their tours and stuff, and sometimes you see them in a music recording studio? I basically just try to build that. So in the first room, you kind of walk in and you have the music station where your Sims can mix all these different types of tracks, and that's where they can sell to get royalties every single day. But then there is a bunch of different windows and then some doors, and then you go through the doors, and that's what ends up having like a keyboard in there. There ends up being guitars and violins and loads of like music equipment and just stuff that I feel like would be necessary if you are trying to create music. But then also in the same like basement area, there ends up being a home gym, and then in the gym I tried to make it seem like there was some sort of like yoga studio. I placed down a yoga instructions mat and then also some normal mats as well. So I was thinking maybe the mum in this household often gets like yoga classes, maybe every like, I don't know, Monday or something, she has yoga instructor come round. But then there is also a home spa, there is also a sauna, and then there is upstairs like a massive entertaining room. On the outside we end up having a basketball court. I end up creating an infinity pool, which I have never built an infinity pool before, I don't think, but yeah, that is the big swimming pool that's on the outside. There is just so much in this house, and it was just so much fun to do and just to decorate and to build. Also, something to mention, the whole entire house, both on the inside and the outside, is modern, which I never seem to build anything modern, because modern builds scare me, because I don't know what it is, but I can never seem to build anything modern in the game. I feel like whenever I try, it just looks like a shoebox, and so I never really seem to build that many modern things. But once I get going, I really get into it, and so on the inside of this house, I try to make loads of different like custom furniture pieces. I made a custom fireplace, I made all the kitchen counters to be custom, I made different decorations by merging in loads of other like bits and bobs into them to make them look like they were different to what they originally was. And I had a lot of fun decorating this build. But yeah, it's in a modern style, which I never normally do, and I normally get a little bit worried and a little bit scared when I build in this style. But for this house, it was really fun and kind of refreshing, because I never really do seem to build like this. But anyway, besides the point, moving on. As you can see, I've now currently moved in, and I'm currently figuring out the floor plan for this house. The floor plan for this house, it took me so long to figure out, because as you can see on the right hand side, we end up having two like diagonal sections, both on like the third floor and then the second floor. Which, by the way, this house, it's a bit higgledy-piggledy, because the basement is technically the first initial floor, but then the actual, what I tried to look like the first floor is the second floor. It's weird. It's because I didn't want there to be a basement in this house, but I wanted it to be like merged into a cliff. I wanted it to look like it was on some sort of like hill, and so what is initially the first floor I tried to make into the basement. But yeah, on the upper two floors there is diagonal walls, which I'm not sure how much you build with diagonal walls in your own personal gameplay, but they're just a nightmare. Absolute nightmare to try and figure out the floor plan for, because you know when you normally build like a normal one tile wall on a straight line, it'll be one tile, you'll be great. When you're building on diagonals, that one tile then turns into a two tile wall, even though it's only technically one. It's just a bit weird, it's very finicky. But yeah, the floor plan up for this house definitely took its time, but I mean, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And I mean, to be honest, even though this house is built on a 50 by 40 lot, I feel like the way that the floor plan is, it doesn't feel like it's on a massive lot, because all of the rooms are quite relatively like close together. Like your Sims are walking through the front door, they've got the first initial seating room, and it's got like that custom fireplace. We've also got like a TV area, and then you walk through one area, you've got dining room, kitchen. Walk through on the other side, you've got the entertainment room, and then if you go upstairs, you just got bedroom, bathroom. Like, it doesn't feel like it's absolutely massive, but I mean, the basement portion over here, which is what I'm doing, this kind of ends up being almost like the biggest area in the house. But the thing is, it's because it's in the basement, I had so much room to work with. At one point, I was debating maybe potentially making it so there was a downstairs underground swimming pool, because I never seem to do that. I don't think I've ever done that in a build where I've made an indoor swimming pool. My swimming pools are normally on the outside, but for this house I had this kind of like waterfall swimming pool, and there's already technically two swimming pools, and so I thought having a third, I know these Sims have got a bit of money, but it's probably a bit much, and so I didn't decide to do that. But I was thinking, if you wanted to, there is definitely like space to extend it in the basement. If you wanted to have more bedrooms, if you wanted to have like particular rooms, maybe you wanted to have some sort of like movie theatre or something. At one point, I also really wanted to have the money vault in the basement, which, if you're not aware, with the Sims 4 Get Famous expansion pack, we have these money vaults that you can place down into your Sims game. Basically, if your Sims are millionaires, they can put all their cash in it, and they can woohoo in it. They can also, I think, steal it if they're not like a member of the family that you come to the house. I think you can attempt to steal it and stuff. But I was debating adding in the money vault into the basement itself, because I'm thinking the Sims that live in this house, like, they are so rich and famous. Like, they've got so much more money, it doesn't even make sense. And so I was really wanting to have some sort of like a safety unit for all of their cash. But just the way the floor plan worked out, I didn't want to mess with the floor plan too much, because in the basement, I actually really like the floor plan, because you kind of walk downstairs, you're into this initial hallway, and if you chuck a right, you go into the home gym. Also ends up having like that yoga studio in the gym, because the gym is absolutely colossal, by the way. And you can also access the gym which is in the basement, from the outside level, because I end up like connecting a path and it ends up being like a doorway and stuff. Like, you can get down into the basement from the outside, like in the garden. But yeah, if you was to go downstairs in the basement, you've got this first initial hallway, you chuck a right, you go into the gym. If you go straight forward, you go into kind of like what I'm terming as like the relaxation area. So over there, that's where we have the home spa and then also the home sauna. Also, by the way, in the spa, I tried to make it so your Sims have got a massage table and they've also somewhere to get like pedicures and manicures and stuff. Because if you're not familiar with the Sims 4 Spa Day game pack, we've got an update where your Sims can now get their nails done in the game. So I placed down that little chair so they can actually get their nails done, but then to me it doesn't really look like somewhere where you would go and sit if you did want to get like a manicure or pedicure or something. And so in the home spa, I tried to make it look like there was some sort of like little desk, and I placed down a ton of different like nail files, and I tried to place down some sort of lamp which I was thinking was like a UV gel lamp. If you've ever got your nails done, hopefully you're following my drift, but basically if you get your nails done and you get like a biap or a gel or something, you have this particular lamp that you have to put your nails underneath, like cure them so the gel doesn't go anywhere. I basically moved objects like literal lights in the game to make it look like there's some sort of UV lamp, but I placed them down into the spa, and I was thinking it could be like some little pretend nail area. Your Sims can still get their nails done in the basement. I was thinking the mum in this house, she's very high maintenance, she probably gets her nails done weekly, but I wanted it to also look like it, because the massage chair that your Sims will sit at when they actually get their nails done doesn't look like the ones that you would get your nails done in real life, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that is in one area of the basement. But then in the other section, if you go left, you go into like the music recording studio and then the music room. I just couldn't really find the correct placement to add in the money vault. The only real place that I could have added it in would be behind the spa. And to me, I'm thinking you're going to get people coming in to come and give you like manicures and pedicures and massages and stuff. You're not going to want them to be able to walk past your money vault, and so yeah, for that reason I didn't decide to add it in. But of course, if you want to, you can. And I mean, to be honest, downstairs in the basement where you can't really see it, this is going to sound really bad, but where you can't really see it, you could probably add as many rooms as you fancy, because from the exterior it's covered up by rocks and cliffs. So if you wanted to, you could add in multiple different bedrooms, you can add in like a movie theatre, you could add in so many different bits and bobs if you want to have like a certain family or something live here. But yeah, I was basically building this house to fit the Bailey Moon family, and to me, I wanted there to be a recording studio, I wanted there to be a home gym, I wanted there to be some sort of like high maintenance area for the mum of this household, and so yeah, that is what I decided to do. But anyway, besides the point, moving on and getting back to talking about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I finished up the floor plan and I've currently moved to the front of the build, and I'm trying to figure out some sort of like layout for the driveway. Now, this lot is so beautiful. Like, it's on the top of these cliffs, it's got this beautiful view of what is meant to be like Los Angeles in the distance. But one thing that really annoys me, and it really just gets on my nerves, is the fact that there is a pathway in only such a little short section of the edge of the lot. So you can see that I've placed down some sort of fence, and I've placed down 2 gates, and then I've got a little tiny bit of like some sort of like floor tile or something leading up to the pathway. Now, the reason why this is such a small little path is because I didn't want to have floor tiles on the edge of the lot, like in front of where I placed down the garage area, leading to the very edge of the lot, because in that way, on the exterior, it doesn't connect the exterior like pathway, like driveway or road, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It's just so annoying, because I really wish it was more of like a straight line that I could connect the initial like driveway portion up to. But I mean, you can see from kind of like a brief overview that the lot that I'm building on, the portion in front of it, you kind of go down a hill, and then there's kind of like a big circle, which I'm imagining limousines and paparazzi will kind of like sit in this little semicircle. But with doing that, you only have such a small little area where you could connect some sort of like driveway or some sort of like pathway leading up to the lot. It's so annoying, but I mean, I tried my best, and I do really like the way it worked out. But initially, I would have really wanted to have some sort of like separate driveway area to like the initial walk up to the house. The way that I ended up doing it is you kind of have these two gates, which I personally imagine to be like battery powered or something. They're just normal gates in the game, but in my head they're like electric gates. But I imagine that your Sims would drive up through them and then they would go around the corner and then they'll park around there. I placed down a sports car and then like a normal car, and then off camera you don't see it, but I do end up placing down some security cameras by the gate and then like in certain areas outside, just because I'm thinking celebrities live here, it's going to be listed as a celebrity home, and so I just don't want to have like loads of random paparazzi being outside and then your Sims not having any like pretend safety measures in place, if you want to put it that way. But either way, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved back to the back garden of this build and I'm currently figuring out the waterfall. Well, I mean, I say waterfall, I think it's termed as the waterfall in game. Like, I'm pretty sure that is what it's called if you have the Better Build Buy mod. I think that's what it was named to. But basically, for this house, I really wanted to make it look like it had some sort of infinity pool, and so in doing that, what I started off by doing was building two separate pools, basically on two different levels. We'll term as like the upstairs pool as the upstairs pool, and then there's downstairs pool. Basically what I did is I went through the live edit menu and I found this waterfall feature that we got from the Island Living expansion pack, and basically I merged it in between these two little bump outs on the upstairs level and then merged the water into the swimming pool above it. So then it kind of looks like this water is coming from the upstairs swimming pool, it's going down this little stream and into the swimming pool below it. I really hope that makes sense. But basically when I was doing it, I noticed that the waterfall itself isn't like a straight line. You know, like some waterfalls can be like on an upstairs bit and then it falls straight down and then into a body of water. Well, the one that I'm using, it kind of goes in like a bit of a step motion, almost like a tiered cake. You know, if you think of like a traditional wedding cake, you've got the 3 tiers and they kind of go up in steps. The waterfall is kind of shaped like that. I really hope you're following along with me. But basically, when I was building, I didn't want there to be some sections where it looks like the water was kind of like floating in the middle of the air. So that's why you can see me playing around with tons of different rocks to try and basically make it look like the water, when it goes down onto some sort of like level, there's some sort of support for that water and it's just not falling into thin air. And so I merged in a ton of different rocks. The ones that I've used are from the Island Living expansion pack, and basically merged them into a platform below the upstairs pool and then made it look like the water was falling onto that and then falling off them into the bottom swimming pool. I do currently have all ones from Island Living, like the rocks are all from Island Living. You can see they're like these really big circular black rocks, but on the upstairs portion, on like the upstairs pool, I really didn't like the look of it once I'd kind of like finished filming this clip and I kind of took a step back. And so you will see in the screenshots that I do decide to change the rocks that I have on like the upstairs portion, just because I found some that are like a little bit more realistic. They look a little bit more better suited for this build, and so I did decide to change it. But they are the rocks that I pulled out at some point when I was figuring out that that area. At one point I chose like a different rock selection and then I deleted it, but in the end I do actually end up placing that one down. But yeah, I did just want to mention that because you might notice that the rocks are a little bit different in the screenshots. But either way, besides the point, moving on. Also in this back garden, there ends up being a basketball court, there ends up being a ton of different sun lounges. I also end up placing down a barbecue area, a little seating area, an outside bar, and then on the upstairs portion, I end up placing down a fire pit and then some sofas. The sofas, only one of the sofas is connected to the fire pit, so then your Sims can actually, you know, roast marshmallows or have a chit chat or something. But I didn't place down all 3 sofas around the fire pit so your Sims can sit on them and use a fire pit, just because they were too close to the fire and looked really unrealistic. But you will see that I end up placing one sofa next to the fire pit and then the other 2 are kind of like decoration, if that makes any sense. But also something that I wanted to mention before I do forget, on the outside in the driveway I placed down a shark pool. Now, believe it or not, from the Get Famous expansion pack, we have piranhas, sharks, and then some other sort of creatures that will probably eat your face if you accidentally fall into a swimming pool. Basically, with the Get Famous expansion pack, we have this pond, which I've never used in a build before. The only time I've ever actually seen it in action, I'm not going to lie to you, is from watching Little Simsy, because she has a Let's Play and she often puts her Sims in that pool if she doesn't really like them anymore. But I've wanted to use it in a build for literally so long, and I've never really done the right appropriate build to use it in. But when I was doing the driveway for this house, I remembered that we have this feature, we have this like shark pond, could be a piranha pond, whatever kind of creature you fancy being in there within the game. And so I thought, well, there's kind of space for it, why don't I place it down? And so if you would have seen that little tiny pond at the front of the build, don't get your Sims to accidentally fall in there, because they might not come out of it, basically. But in gameplay, yeah, there's little sharks running around, or there's little piranhas. There is also a few other options, but I can't remember what they are off memory. But I just thought I would mention it because it's a really fun object, and I literally never use it in any of my builds, because how many times can I place down a shark pond into like a happy suburban family home? Not that many times. Actually, saying that depends on what kind of gameplay you do, but for me personally, I would rather keep that to like the rich and famous Sims. And so yeah, I added that into the front portion of the build. But either way, besides the point, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over into the inside of the build, and I started off by the front entrance hallway. So over here, I wanted to decorate this to be somewhat similar to my normal entrance hallways, because let's be realistic here, how many different things can you put into a front entrance hallway? Like when you're walking through your front door, most people have a side table maybe, sometimes potentially a mirror, and then often a coat rack. But where I was trying to build like this celebrity fancy house, I wanted it to feel a little bit more extravagant than just rather having like a little side table with a lamp on. And so I tried to create somewhat of like a custom built-in feature using this really big marble table that we got from, I believe it was a Dine Out game pack. Basically what I did is I sized it up, and then behind it I placed down these kind of like little wall slats. The ones that I've used are from the Snow Escape expansion pack. And then I basically moved objects, loads of different like paintings and flowers and books, and at one point I placed down a bowl, and then I sized up some yarn from the Nifty Knitting Stuff pack to make it look like some fancy like fluffy balls in a bowl. I don't know, I really liked it, and I used them a few different times in the build. But yeah, I just tried to make the front entrance hallway feel a little bit more special than just like a regular entrance hallway. And also something I wanted to point out and mention, I purposely span around the shoes in this build because last week when I built a realistic suburban family home, I placed down some shoes by the front entrance doorway, and someone commented saying that they really wanted me to place down shoes in a hallway but have the shoes turn in so like you've just taken them off. And I realised I never do that. But me personally, all of my shoes that I keep facing me, because I like to see what I'm working with. Like when I'm planning my outfits, I like to see what kind of shoes that I've got and what we can work with. But whenever it comes into my Sims builds, I've noticed that I do that as well. And so yeah, this week, because I got that comment last week, I decided that I would basically switch out the shoes so it looks like your Sims have just taken them off, if that makes any sense. But it's a small thing, but I did just want to mention it. But either way, besides the point, as you can see, I've now moved over and I've started making it this custom fireplace. So I have done this before in the past. If you saw my dream penthouse apartment, I think I titled it, you would have seen me previously do this. But basically I really wanted there to be some sort of like custom double-breasted fireplace in this open like lounge room area, because on the other side I wanted it to be a home office. But something that I noticed when I was doing the floor plan, the home office would have been so small and it would have been so cramped, and so I wanted to give it something a little bit more special. And then I remembered that you can actually just make custom fireplaces in the game, and so yeah, that is pretty much what I did. It's actually really simple. Basically what you do is you find these columns. The ones that I've used are from the Spa Day game pack. They're these big like brown chunky things, if you want to put it that way, and I sized them down, but I moved them up into the air to make it look like they're coming down from the ceiling. I then got this really big slab on the floor. It's the same colour as the columns, but that is also from Spa Day. I sized that up and then just put that kind of underneath where the columns sit. I then found a shelf, just a plain base game shelf, and that moved that under where the columns are, just to make it look like it's a little bit more interesting. You don't really need to do that, it's just decorative, but I just like the look of it. But then I found these firewoods, or like these logs of wood, in at the debug menu, and basically what I did is I sized them up and then rotated some of them in different directions and then moved them onto the shelf. And then what you do to make it functional is you just find a fireplace in the game, anyone that you fancy, size it down really small. I moved it into the logs, you can just about see the tip of the fireplace, if you want to put it that way, And then, yeah, it fully works. It's fully functional. The way that fireplaces work in The Sims 4, if you're not aware, you can size up, you can size down fireplaces, and it doesn't affect the usability of them. You can still fully use them. And so the way that I did it, I sized the fireplace down really small, but I purposely did it so it was poking out the logs ever so slightly. That way, when you're in gameplay, you just got to find for the little bit of fireplace that is poking out between the logs, click on that, and then you can do all the same fireplace interaction. You know what I mean? Like, your Sims can warm themselves up, or they can burn money if they're super rich, and your Sims can basically use that fireplace like a normal fireplace. I did learn this method of making a custom fireplace ages ago from a YouTube video, which I did previously link the last time I built this. I can't remember off memory right now who it's by, but what I'll do is I'll link it in the description box down below if my explanation wasn't good enough. But yeah, I'll link a tutorial for you how to create custom fireplaces. And to be honest, there is so many different ways and methods that you can create custom fireplaces in the game. This is just one of them, because like I said, fireplaces, all you've got to do is just size them down, and then you can move them into anything and it would pretty much work. And so yeah, it's just like a nice little fun extra thing. But either way, moving on, as you can see, I've moved over to like the bit behind the fireplace. It's kind of like a home office, but it hasn't got a door because I just couldn't really figure out how to make a door look like it wasn't out of place, because there was such a small little gap in between the wall and then where the fireplace kind of ended. You would have seen originally the slabs that I had underneath the fireplace were really big, but then when I moved over and I started doing the home office bit, I then realised that I didn't really have enough space to place down a desk behind it, so I ended up sizing down them slabs ever so slightly just to make it so your Sims can actually walk through that area. But to be honest, saying this, I feel like your Sims could probably just walk over them slabs anyway. Don't take that for truth, I'm not sure, but I feel like they can anyway. But yeah, I did just size them down, and then on the opposite side of the fireplace, I placed down a computer desk, I placed down a little computer, there is a bookcase. I really struggled in terms of what to put on the walls, and so I did this kind of like weird half wall kind of slat thing. It's the same slats that I use in the entrance hallway, and I kind of purposely left a gap just because, I don't know, I just thought it looked kind of cool. And so yeah, that's what I did over there. And then I'm back into the lounge room. I do apologise because I realised when I was editing this footage back that I was very much to and from in this open plan area, because I kept on having ideas of what I wanted to add, and I was just a bit all over the place in this one particular room. In the other rooms, I promise, it's not as bad, but when it came around to furnishing this room, I kept on going from the lounge room to the office, back to the lounge room, and so on and so forth. I feel like the footage might look a little bit skew with, and so I do apologise for that. But in the lounge room itself, I ended up using these sofas, which are from the Dream Home Decorator game pack. Don't think I've ever used them before. They're really nice, but yeah, I just never seem to use more modern kind of sofas in my build. I'm normally one for more like comfy looking sofas that it looks like you can snuggle up on and, you know, get a blanket for. But these ones, they're quite modern, and where I'm trying to build in like a modern style, I thought they were perfect. Also, there is matching armchairs to them sofas as well, which is actually quite surprising, unfortunately, because in The Sims 4 we often tend to get sofas and then no matching like armchairs, or sometimes we'll get like a really lovely 2-seater sofa and then that'll be it. Like, we won't get a matching armchair or a 3-seater. But yeah, for the ones from Dream Home Decorator, there is a 3-seater one, and then armchairs, and then also you can make like sectional pieces of furniture from the Dream Home Decorator game pack, which I did try doing at one point in this build, but you will see that later on. Now, as you can see, I've currently moved over into the entertaining room, which is this really big, awkward diagonal room, which is on the side of the build. So the Bailey Moon family, they're rich and famous celebrities. I'm thinking, this is how I picture them. They often throw parties, they often have people come round and bartend for them. Even though the dad in this household is a musician, I was thinking probably hire a musician to come round, have a little sing-along. You know, they probably often host like charity events and things like that in the game, because if your Sims are a particular level of fame, your Sims can host like charity balls and stuff. I can't remember off memory because I haven't done it in a little while, but I think your Sims can raise money for different things. Am I wrong? I probably am wrong, but I feel like there is something that they can raise for charity events. But you know, I do imagine them to be some Sims that do enjoy having a little bit of a party, having a little bit of a sing-along and stuff like that. And so I wanted there to be some sort of entertainment space for all of these like really extravagant parties that they're going to throw. And so this is basically the room, which is a bit of a party room. So in here I end up placing down a piano in the corner. There also ends up being like a little lounge set. I end up placing down a bar, so your Sims can hire a bartender and your Sims don't have to like go into the garden to go and get a drink and stuff. And then there is also a seating area. There is also some sort of like awkward bookcase. I say awkward, I felt like it was awkward because I didn't know what to do with that space, but I tried to make some sort of like bookcase wall. I then merged in like some decorations, like some leaning artwork and like some books and stuff on top of it, so it didn't look so plain. And then over here I basically used the same side table that I used in the entrance hallway and just basically filled it out with tons of stuff. And I'm not gonna lie to you, really struggled when it came around to filling this out because I really didn't know what to place down onto such a large surface. I think I end up placing down some more books if there wasn't already enough in this room, but I also end up placing down some music related things. So I think I end up using some old vinyls that we got from the basement treasures kit. I then also placed them down next to a record player, so I was thinking they're the vinyls that you would use for the record player. I then also placed down some Get Famous Debug awards, so in gameplay your Sims can win these for like loads of different things. There is trophies for like if your Sim's a bit of a clown, there is trophies if you do like a fan meet and greet. And there is also some trophies relating to like your Sim's career. Like sometimes if I've got like a writer Sim, for example, and they publish a book they publish a book and the book does really well, sometimes you can get invited to the what's it called, this Starlight Summit. It's an event where basically your Sims can go, and if the book was good enough your Sims can win awards. And I was thinking, well, one of the Sims in this house, the mum, she's a writer, maybe she's won a few different awards for a few different of her previous books. Maybe there's some of her awards, or maybe it's the husband's award. He's a very famous musician, maybe he's had some like #1 hits and stuff. And so yeah, I moved them down onto the surface. Also placed down like some statue heads and just random bits and bobs. I was really struggling trying to fill out that area, but yeah, I really like the way it turned out in the end, but I was really struggling for decorations. And I also actually, I placed down a painting of a guitar onto the wall because again, the husband's a musician, so it kind of made sense, and I also never really get to use that painting. But besides the point, moving on, as you can see I've now moved over into the next room, which is the dining room. So in here I tried to create some sort of like custom like nectar tray, if you're following my drift. Basically I wanted it to be somewhere where it looked like the Sims in this household could, you know, have a bottle of wine with their dinner, and there's two little like glasses next to the bottle of wine. And so I didn't want to just place it down onto the table. I thought, why don't I try and make some sort of like tray to put it on. So what I did is I used the same slab that I used from Spa Day underneath the fireplace. I just used it in a different colour and sized it down, but I basically moved it onto the table. I then found some little wooden planks, the ones that I've used, I think are just debug base game ones, but I basically sized them down to get them to the same proportions of what the slab was. I then moved objects to them on top of the slab, and then I moved it down into the table further, so then the slab of like concrete didn't look so thick, if you want to put it that way. And then I went through the debug menu. I found a bottle of nectar. The one that I've used is ones that your Sims can craft. If I say craft, they can stomp on some grapes and stuff if you've got the Horse Ranch expansion pack, and they can make wine. It's one of my favourite features of the Horse Ranch EP. But I found a bottle of wine in the debug menu, and then I also found 2 little wine glasses. The ones that I've used are from, I believe, the Vampires game pack, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the ones that I've used, them wine glasses don't spoil. Because the thing is, in the game, whenever your Sims will make any sort of drink, any sort of snack, any sort of food, and it has some sort of like plate or mug or cup or something, normally you can find them in the debug menu, but after some time they do eventually spoil and they get a little bit dirty and then like, start to smell and stuff. But I think the ones from Vampires don't spoil, or they might potentially spoil, but I think it takes some time, because whenever I use them in a build and I speed through the time, it doesn't really seem to spoil. But either way, I just thought they really looked really nice, and so I placed them down onto the dining room table. And then the table itself is one from base game, and then the chairs are from Eco Lifestyle. I never use them chairs, and to be honest, the reason why I never use them is because I always think they look really uncomfortable, because oftentimes I do try and use like more dining room chairs that have like a little bit of a cushion, or they look a little bit more comfy. But sometimes I might use a particular all wooden chair from like the Cats and Dogs expansion pack, but them ones don't look as comfy, whereas the ones that I've used in the dining room in this house, to me they're all wooden chairs. They've got wooden armrests, and I just think, me personally, if I was to sit down on that for too long, my bum would hurt. So I never use them, but they went really nicely for this house, and so I thought I'm just going to put realism to the side and put my own personal preferences to the side, and yeah, use them in the dining room. But either way, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over into the next room, which is the kitchen. So in here, I tried to create some sort of like custom counterpieces. I have done this before in a previous build, but I basically wanted to use these ones that we got from Island Living, because the end pieces of them have some sort of like waterfall effect, like the top portion of the counter, say for example if it's like granite or something, will kind of follow on down to the sides of the counter, and I really like that. But I'm not a massive fan of the colour swatches that we have these Island Living counters in, and so if you merge in a signpost, the ones that I've used are from, I think, the Dine Out game pack. You're going to see them a lot in this build, but I basically merge them into the counters, and yeah, it's custom kitchen counters. And if you're wondering, they still work. They're fully functional. Also, at this point, I feel like I need to point it out, because you probably realise I haven't currently got an oven. Don't worry, I do end up placing down an oven in this kitchen. I just haven't placed it down yet, because basically when I came in and I started creating these custom like counter pieces, I was just so focused on making sure that these signposts were moved into the counters seamlessly, so there wasn't any like weird clipping or anything, that I forgot to place down an oven, which sounds really silly, but I mean, easily done. But I do end up placing one down, so don't worry, your Sims can actually cook food in this kitchen in a minute, because I basically go to add a rug kind of like between the fridges, and I was thinking, oh, I'll place down like a nice little runner kind of in front of the oven. Hang on, I ain't got an oven yet. And then that's when I place it down. But yeah, I end up using one that is from the Home Chef Hustle stuff pack, and then also the fridges that I've used in this kitchen are also from that DLC as well. But then there also ends up being like a little espresso machine. There is also a standalone mixer. I then also placed down some clutter decorations, so like some spices, some knife blocks, a few different plants and stuff. And then in the middle on the kitchen island, I placed down a sink, which again, actually, I think that sink is from the Home Chef Hustle stuff pack. But you can see at this point, I realised that, hang on, you haven't got an oven. You've forgotten an oven in the kitchen, which is, in my opinion, one of the most necessary parts of the kitchen. So I basically just had a little bit of a shift about of the counters and all the different appliances and managed to fit one in. But one thing I do want to say about this kitchen, it has probably the best view in the whole entire house, because when it came around to placing down the exterior windows, I knew that I wanted the kitchen to have kind of like an overlooking view of the world of Del Sol Valley, and so I purposely placed these windows in kind of like a semi, I was about to say semicircle, but it's not, like basically wanting the windows to go all around the walls. And so the view that your Sims have from this kitchen, it's just so pretty because of a night time as well, when the skylights come on and you've got all of these buildings in the distance. It looks so beautiful. But yeah, the views of the kitchen is probably some of the best views in the house. But then saying that, I feel like the view from the parents' bedroom is also equally as good, because their bedroom has a lot of different windows in, and it's also on the back portion of the house, which kind of overlooks it. But either way, besides the point, moving on, I have actually now moved on into the parents' bedroom. So in here, I decided to use this bed, which is from the City Living expansion pack, and then I decided to use these curtains, which are from the Desert Luxe kit. I really struggled when it came around to doing this room. It was such a big space, and this is a diagonal room as well, which made it 10 times harder for me to figure out what to do, because initially at one point, and I had to cut out the video, but I initially was thinking, well, it's such a big room. Sometimes when you've got really big spaces like this, if you use platforms and you kind of section it off so you have to like step up and step down in certain little areas, it can kind of make a room feel smaller. And I went to go and add a platform, but then remembered I'm building in a diagonal room, and it's a weird situation when it comes around to walls and platforms on a diagonal, and so I didn't end up doing that. But in here I tried to create some sort of like custom makeup vanity. Now originally I wanted to use one that we got from the latest kit, which I think was the Modern Luxe kit off memory, but the style of the frame of like the dressing table was like too metal, and it just wasn't really going with the rest of the house, how I've decorated it to be more like wooden and like oaky furniture. And so I basically tried to make it look like there was some sort of like custom makeup vanity using a little desk that we got from the Snowy Escape expansion pack, and then this mirror, which, The mirror is from either the Everyday Cluster Kit or the Pastel Pop Kit, but I think it's from the Everyday Cluster Kit. And the reason why I'm getting them confused is because we got them two kits very close together, and so oftentimes I'll mistake items from that kit or like one of the kits and it's from the other kit because we got them so close together. I didn't have much time to process what is from what kit, but I basically placed it down into the desk and then I tried to merge it down into the desk further, and then using one of them slabs from Spa Day kind of cover up the like front section of the mirror, because the mirror itself, it looks like it's meant to be for like a teenager or something. It's got loads of different like hair clips and stuff, which is really nice, but it wasn't really matching with how I decorated this room. And also I was thinking that a celebrity lives here or sleeps in this room, they're not going to be having a mirror that's got like star clips and heart hair clips on their makeup vanity. And so I did try and cover it up using that slab from Spa Day, but I noticed when I came in and I was playtesting this house, the mirror just weirdly like went down into the floor, and I think it's because I moved it into the desk. And so I did decide to delete that slab, but I mean I just changed the colour of it so it's like a more appropriate colour to match the rest of the house. I changed the colour to be like a creamy colour, and then I still placed down like eyeshadow palettes and random bottles of lotion and nail varnish and stuff around it, just to make it look like somewhat of a makeup vanity. But either way, moving on, as you can see, I've now come in and started furnishing the parents' walk-in wardrobe, which was such a difficult room to do because again it was on a diagonal. I really wanted to use the wardrobe pieces that we got from the Dream Home Decorator game pack, but, and I have said this before, the annoying thing about them is when you go into half walls up, half walls down mode, they do disappear. And for me personally, I have mentioned this before in the past, but whenever I do my speed builds, I do them so you can obviously download and play in them and enjoy them, but I also like to download and play in my own builds myself. Like I often play in my own personal builds that I share on YouTube, and me personally as a player, I find it really annoying when them wardrobe pieces disappear from Dream Home Decorator. So when I was doing the parents' wardrobe, I went to go and add them, then realised that with the half walls up, half walls down, for the location of that wardrobe, they'll disappear. And so I ended up placing down one that we got from the Get Together expansion pack, like one of them big thicker walk-in wardrobes. And then on the other side of the wall I placed down a little chest of drawers, and then I placed down some like hanging clothes off it. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next bedroom, which is kind of like the guest bedroom or like the butler's room. So when I was building this house, I didn't picture this household to have a butler, but I mean, you can definitely have one. I mean, there's space for them, but I was more so thinking it could be a guest bedroom, but then potential butler bedroom, depending on what kind of gameplay that you like to do. I just find butlers really annoying in the game, and so if ever I want to have some sort of like butler in my gameplay, which is not very often, but if I ever do, I'll just create a sim and then just basically make them the living butler, but then I can control them, because in that way I can actually get them to do butler things, because half the time butlers don't actually do anything and they just stand around and then spray some random odd desks and side table, and it doesn't actually clean it. So if you want to, you can have a butler living in this house, but I was more so decorating this to be kind of like a generic guest bedroom. So in here I tried to create some sort of like custom really big like headboard bed frame that goes along the whole entire back wall. And the way that I did it is I used that same signpost that I merged into the kitchen counters downstairs. I basically sized it up really big, and then there was some sort of like weird kind of ugly top part of it, so then I got some shelves, the ones that I've used are from Snowy Escape, and then tried to cover it up. And then behind the shelving unit itself I placed down some more of them like wooden wall decals, again from the Snowy Escape expansion pack, and then that was kind of done. I then moved objects to bed kind of in between the decorations itself to make it look like the bed frame was coming out of that custom wall piece. And then on the actual like all the different decorations, I basically merged in some paintings. The ones that I've used again are from Snowy Escape. I use a lot of Snowy Escape in this build, but the wood tone from that EP was just so perfect, and so I use a lot of it. But I basically found some paintings and then rotated them so it looks like they were leaning, and then moved objects to them onto like that back headboard just to make it look a little bit more interesting. And then in there I finished it off by placing down a wardrobe, a chest of drawers, and then a little TV. But quickly, you would have just seen me do one of the bathrooms in this house. Like I already mentioned, there ends up being 3 bathrooms. There is 2 upstairs and then 1 downstairs. But initially I was going to show you the furnishing for the parents' ensuite, because both the parents and then the kid have their own ensuite. But then the ensuite was on a diagonal, which, again, diagonals in The Sims 4, very finicky, just very they're just hard to work with, and so I decided to show you the furnished unit for the little boys ensuite. But in there I just used a iron living sink and then merged in a side table. It's the same side table that I've been using pretty much throughout the whole entire build, but I merged the sink into the side table to make it look somewhat custom, and then I placed down a spa day bathtub, and then I think the toilet is from Tiny Living. It's quite do you know what, I never use that toilet, and I've noticed I always use the same toilet, and the toilet that I always use is called the John toilet, and I'm not joking, it's literally called John, and it's a loo. But in there I just wanted to match the rest of the house, and I decided to use a more modern toilet. But either way, besides the point, as you can see, I've now moved over into the next bedroom, which is the little boy's room. So in here, initially I was going to use a double bed. The one that I originally chose was from the high school years expansion pack, because I was thinking Orange Bailey Moon, his mum and dad are millionaires. Like, his mum is a best-selling author, his dad is a super famous rich musician. If there's going to be any kid in my safe farm that's going to have a double bed, it's probably going to be him. And so initially I did come into this room and I placed down a double bed, but then once I started going throughout the room and I was putting out different objects that I wanted to use, I then realised the double bed was making it really awkward for like space saving, and like just in general, like the walk around for this room and like where your Sims would walk and stuff. And so I decided to scrap the idea and give him a bunk bed instead, which, to be honest, I feel like is quite cool for a kid anyway. I don't know if anyone else was the same, but when I was growing up, I really wanted a bunk bed, but my mum always told me that I wasn't allowed a bunk bed because it would be really awkward to change the sheets. I don't know if anyone else had a mum or a parent or someone that used the same excuse, but I always wanted a bunk bed when I was growing up and I was never allowed one. And so to me, if you're a kid and you got a bunk bed, I always thought it was really cool. And yeah, Orange Bailey Moon in my save file, he ends up having a bunk bed. It's got a really fancy computer underneath it, and then also in this room, I basically tried to fill it out with all the different kid stuff that we've got in the game, just because I feel like this kid, he's quite literally got it all. So in here I placed down the little science table. The one that I've used is from the Snowy Escape expansion pack. There is also a void quarter station in the middle of the floor. There is also a little TV area in front of this little like side table. It looks like a chest of drawers unit, but I was thinking maybe it's where he keeps all like his video games, or maybe his like DVDs and stuff. You would have seen, but I moved objects, some posters, into some frames that we have in the game, because I was thinking that it would be quite nice if he has some like fancy framework, but fancy frames of like artwork is what I was meant to say. But I was thinking it would be quite nice if he had something like that in his room, but I couldn't really find any framed prints that kind of matched the idea that I wanted to go for. But then I found these posters. The ones that I've used, I think, are just from the high school years expansion pack, but they're just like a singular poster. So what I did is I got one frame. The one that I've used is from the Book Nook kit. I placed it down to the wall. I then deleted the wall so then I could like freely place the poster, and then I rotated the poster by 1 degree, because the frame that I've used, it's got like a little slight tilt to it, which I didn't initially realise when I pulled it out. But I basically rotated the poster so it would sit flush to the frame, and then yeah, moved objects in, and it kind of looks like somewhat of a custom framed poster print. I don't know, I just thought it looked really cool. But also in that room, I placed down a base game doll's house. I used the modern one, which I never use. Normally when it comes around to placing dolls' houses down into any of my builds, I will always use the one that we got from the Eco Lifestyle expansion pack. It's like a cardboardy looking one. To me, it's my favourite one just because it looks so cute, and just it looks the most kid-like. Like, I feel like I could more realistically find a cardboard doll's house in a house rather than like a big fancy modern one that costs a couple grand. And so I normally place down that one, but it also kind of looks like it's kind of like budget friendly, which a lot of the time I really like. But again, for this house and for the kids' bedroom, I didn't want it to feel like his stuff was like cheap things. I wanted it to feel quite expensive because his mum and dad in my head are like millionaires. And so I placed down this future looking base game modern one, and yeah, just popped it into the corner. But anyway, moving on, as you can see, I've now moved down into the basement, and I've started off by furnishing the little home spa and almost like miniature nail salon. So in here, like I said, I wanted there to be somewhere where your Sims can come and get their nails done. They can get manicures, they can get pedicures, they could also get a massage. But I really wanted it to look like they could actually get their nails done, because the thing is, with the Star Day expansion pack, we've got the ability for our Sims to go and get manicures and pedicures, but they get them on the same massage chair that they can also get like hand massages and foot massages on. And to me, whenever I look at it, it just doesn't look like somewhere where you would be able to get a manicure or pedicure. Maybe in previous times, whenever I've been to a nail shop, I just go to the wrong ones. But to me, it's so much more realistic to go somewhere and sit down and you've kind of got like a table in between you and then 2 chairs either side. And so in this room, I basically try to do that. It's not functional, it's not usable. Your Sims can sit on the chairs, but I just wanted it to look somewhat realistic, just for like storytelling purposes. And so I moved objects, some nail varnishes, some nail files. I then sized down a snowy escape lamp and then moved it into the side table. I was thinking UV lamp. If you get biop or something, you've probably seen that before, because it's what you use if ever you want to cure your nails. Like if you use gel, I'm not a nail technician, I don't actually know what I'm talking about, but whenever you get like gel nail varnish or like biop or something, you have some sort of like special UV lamp. I basically tried to size down this snowy escape lamp and make it look like that. But also in that room, there ended up being like a little massage table, and then I just placed down like a little side table and then filled it out with some water bottles and then some little towels and stuff. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next room, which is the music recording studio. So this by far ends up being my favourite room in the whole entire house. I just feel like it looks so cool in here, and I'm just so happy with the way it turned out and the fact that it's functional as well. Like your Sims can actually come down here and they can make different music tracks. So you can see that I've used this kind of like music station. It's from the Get Famous expansion pack, and your Sims can make different music tracks and then like sell them. They can get money from them every single day. But I used 3, but only one of them is usable. You could probably delete a chair and then make it so 2 of them are usable, but basically whenever you think of music studios, or whenever I do anyway, I always picture there being some sort of like window and then a door, always on the right hand side. I don't know why, but it's always on the right hand side of the door. But then there ends up being like some sort of laptops and all these different DJ looking mixer things, I don't know what they're called, but there always ends up being something like that. And so basically using this same music station, I tried to recreate something like that. The one on the right hand side closest to the door, that's the one that your Sims can actively use. Like your Sims can actually use that to produce music tracks. And then on the other ones, I merged in like some headphones, some mixtapes. I placed down some like tech clutter, also placed down some like boxes underneath it, and just random bits and bobs that I feel like you would have in a music studio. I placed down some chairs in front of 2 of the stations. I was thinking maybe like the DJ, not the DJ, the producer. I don't know anything about producing music. I honestly have not got a Scooby. But when you see like documentaries, or if you see music videos and they've got the recording studio in them, there's always someone sitting in the chair with a pair of headphones on in front of the windows, and they're doing all like the mixing stuff. And so I placed down some chairs in front of some of the music stations to try and get that idea across. Like someone has been sitting in the director's chair, someone else has pulled up one of them like foldable chairs, they're having a little bit of a listen, and yeah, I just thought it looked really cool. But in here, for ages, I tried to place down a red corner sofa. I don't know what it is, but in my mind, whenever I do picture music recording studios, there's always a red corner sofa or like a red sofa. I don't know if this is like a common thing or if I've just seen a certain documentary and it's just got a red sofa in it, but to me, to have a red sofa in a music recording studio just makes sense in my mind. And so for ages, I tried to make it work. I tried to use one that we got from the Dream Home Decorator game pack, but the red was too like orangey red and it really wasn't working. I then tried to use some armchairs that we got from, I believe, Get Famous, but then that red was too red, and I had a bit of a mare trying to pick out just the armchairs in that room. But I ended up going for the ones that we got from, I believe, the Growing Together expansion pack. They look a little bit older, which kind of made sense in my mind. Maybe they've been in this music recording studio for years, or maybe they've been like passed over through different studios and stuff, and that's why they look a bit older. But either way, in the next room, which is the music room, which I'm currently doing, there ends up being a keyboard in here. Also end up placing down some like tech looking stuff that looks like it's sound mixers. Also placed down a guitar, a violin at one point. I tried for ages to try and make it look like this room had some sort of soundproofing, and so you'll see I used so many different wall decorations, trying to size them up and rotate them and just move them into the wall to make it look like the foamy stuff that you would have on I don't know what it's called. I really know what you know what I'm talking about, but sometimes if you need to record something, it's quite common to have foam on the walls just so you get like a better sound. I think it blocks out the exterior sound. Again, I ain't got a clue, but tried to make it look like it had something like that by sizing up multiple different objects, but it wasn't working. And so I decided to use some objects but just keep them to their original like size, and it kind of looks like some sort of like soundproofing foamy thing. And then also in here end up placing down like a little bar stool, a little microphone, a bottle of water by the bar stool. I was thinking if you're singing and maybe you want to, you know, just keep your throat from not sounding too harsh, maybe you drink water or something. But yeah, I placed that down on the floor, and then I finished that room. I pressed stop recording, and then I realised I had no speakers in there. And so you might notice in the screenshots there does end up being some really big speakers kind of on the back wall by the soundproofing looking thing, and then also on the inside of like where all the like the decks and stuff is, because I was imagining there's speakers from what's happening inside of the music studio. But as you can see, I've now moved over to the last room in this house, which is the absolutely massive home gym. So in here I ended up placing down 3 treadmills and then 3 yoga mats, only because purely I had the space for it. And then obviously ended up placing down this really big like gym equipment thing in the corner that ends up being a boxing bag. And then I'm just going to go around the room and finish it off, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or if you search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys.